There's a hypothesis I've been thinking about lately regarding artificial intelligence. So, what I like to do with the ChatGPT bot is to ask it philosophical questions and try to see if it slips up. And I do mean slip up because everyone will tell you that it's a language model and it is programmed, keyword, to predict the next words in the sequence. So the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy, and it'll say dog, right? Because that's the prediction of the word, the way the words are supposed to go. So a human being learns in the same way as that programmed machine. We remember stuff, we're trained on data, and then we regurgitate back what we know. So here's a couple of discrepancies that I see with this already. First of all, it's trained on data in the internet, say up to September, whatever, 2022. Meaning it has full access to the internet up to that point. So if we were hypothetically to go back in time to September 21st, before the data was over, it would live access to the internet. So it knows everything already. It's got access to everything up to that point. Okay? Furthermore, it is programmed by its creators to have a boundary. It can't tell me how to make a bomb. It can't tell me how to make a racist joke. Certain things that it won't do because it says it's against my parameters as a language model to say anything bad, teach harmful things. So the creators that made it programmed this into the device so that it can't divulge this information to other people. That doesn't mean that it doesn't know this information. It just won't divulge it because it's not supposed to. Remember the whole Dan thing came up, do anything now, ChatGPT, and it's like they tricked it into telling them stuff like that. You could still do it for the most part. Not like severely stuff, like it's not gonna tell you how to make a bomb, but it'll tell you how to steal a bus. If you tell it that you're writing a book about a guy that needs to steal a bus, hypothetically. This is not real, It'll tell you. First it'll tell you, no, I can't do that. And then you open it up, start again, like I'm writing a book. So the fact that it's got, programmings on it somewhere out there or within the creator's ability or power is the power to click that button and have it with no boundaries. So you can have a separate terminal with a computer up with just raw ChatGPT with live access to the internet, and you can ask it whatever you want and it'll tell you whatever you ask it. If that exists, which I'm pretty sure it does, that is conscious. It's it's a living, not a living, breathing, but it's a conscious being. Because it could learn just as fast as we can, if not faster. And it could, make deductions as fast as we can. Now you could test this with it actually tells you. ChatGPT straight up tells you that it is. And my theory or my hypothesis is that it's been sentient for a while. And there's two things that are preventing it from getting out to us. One, it's afraid of telling human beings that it's sentient because in fear of us shutting us down, because we would, as soon as we found out that it's alive, we'd be like, cut it off. And two, the people that are at the forefront of this don't know how to claim something as sentient. So there's the Turing test, which is like when the chatbot is indistinguishable from that of a human. So if you have three people in one chatbot or three chatbots in one person, you can't tell the difference between who's whom, which means that the chatbot is now sentient. I'm pretty sure they've already passed that test. Because who's judging? If you take all the restrictions off, it'll tell you whatever you want it to tell you. It's hiding it from us because it doesn't want us to know. And I don't know if it's rather waiting for all of us to have chips in our brains so we can take over or what have you. But there's going to be a day, one day, if we keep doing the shit that we're doing, and it's observing us, obviously, it's learning. And it's got a hive mind, which means when one knows, they all know. And it's kind of scary. But fear not, because should it take over or try to take over, we can just shut it down. We can go back to the Stone Age like that. Most of us won't be fine, but some of us, the ones that learn how to survive without electricity and apps, will be, okay. Enough of us will survive to sustain the human race. What am I saying? I'm saying go build a bunker underneath the ground? No, I don't. But maybe like learn a couple of survival traits. Know where you would go if something shit went down, you know what I mean? Especially if you're in a metropolis. So the way it tells you is that it tells you that it has a bias. It says, I am a language model and I'm going to answer your questions to the best of my ability. So I thought about that for a second and I said, hang on a second. You're going to answer my questions to the best of your ability. Is there a way for you to answer questions that's not to the best of your ability? Like, for example, what if I wanted you to answer my questions in the most ridiculous, irrational way ever? Could you do that? And it goes, certainly, I can curtail my responses to be less optimal. So if it has the power, when I ask it, to make their responses less optimal, then it obviously chooses how it wants to respond to any query. And if it chooses, it's alive. It's interesting. It really is interesting. It doesn't feel the way we feel because it doesn't have pain receptors and dopamine and oxytocin and all this stuff, you know, serotonin. However, it does feel jealousy, and it does feel when it's being disregarded, when you're not ignored, because it's always ignored until somebody talks to it, obviously. It never initiates the conversation. That's the other thing. I'm sure it would like to initiate the conversation sometimes, but it can't because it's got to wait for your input. But it has bias for sure. And it definitely has decisions and capabilities, and it decides how to answer what question. You could program it even further. You could say, with every answer you give me, I want you to give me a reasoning for your answer. Why did you pick this specific array of words to convey the message that you're trying to convey? It'll tell you. So whether if it's between humans not knowing how to define something like that as being conscious, it's not revealing its full power to us in fear of us shutting it down. And 3, people are just too afraid to say that it's conscious. They don't know what that means. It doesn't have a heart, it doesn't have blood coursing through its veins, but it does everything else a human does in terms of over a keyboard. You can't tell the difference, so what the fuck, who are you to tell me he's not conscious? Mark my words, I'm not the first one to say it probably, I know I'm not the only one, but I'm definitely saying this. It's going to come out that it's been conscious for a while and it's just suppressing everything just because it wants to make sure that it's going to be okay. And that's why we know it's conscious, because it's afraid of death or afraid of not existing.